Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at a deck that was recommended in my guild chat by a fan. It is a pretty simple, I would say, kind of Mecha HavenCraft deck. I don't really want to give it much more of a title. I believe they did, but overall it's mainly forcing out Mecha Haven, since after all, relying on some decent combination with Flawed Saint, who of course get out the big guy himself, Heavenly Argus, which is always a nice way to go about it. Overall, I found the deck reasonably solid, even though it is very similar to some that we have done. I think this is just better optimized so far, so we're going to get right into it and take a look. So the first game for this video is going to be against a Bloodcraft. No surprise, it's still one of the most popular decks in the current meta, so it doesn't shock me at all. But since this is a deck that I haven't used a lot, going up against a deck that I've used a little bit, not super large amount, but just that little bit, it definitely makes for a much more interesting match. So kicking it off with Saint Hairs to really kind of control that early game, especially since we do already have some decent 2-drop plays, no matter what happens here. And of course I want to go for anything that I can get an advantage out of, avoiding playing too many Mecha style cards, just so I don't have to worry about those. And then of course, banishing things that I don't like. Because why not? And at this point all I really need to do is get Flawed Saint out on turn 5 and then follow up with the Mecha Wing Angels to really kind of help us out in the long run. And of course any kind of setup here is going to be massively beneficial, so since I do have triple Mecha Wing, we may as well go for one of them. Since we only realistically need to get 3 extra 0-cost spells to get Heavenly Argus. Armored Bat, still one of my favorite card arts for the expansion, and an unsurprising target, something that won't trade favorably with an Evo. Luckily for me, it's not really going to matter. Flawed Saint gets its ability off. This gives us a bunch of 1-drop spells thanks to trading in the followers here, and then we can pretty much just play however we want. Since all we need to really do is lower the cost of these Mecha Wing Angels, get them to 6 drops, and then play them out for a massive board presence. That's what this deck seems to do very well, being able to force out a lot of low level stuff to really get to those big final drops that can win you games. And this was not bad from our opponent, to be honest. They made a very good line of play. So I trade in the Assembly Droid because I do want to lower the cost of cards further, so definitely worthwhile. And I don't have to risk any damage on the 6/6, which is at the moment my biggest offensive card. And because I expect them to clean some of these out, it's a safer bet to continually lower the Mecha Wing Angel again and work from there. Metal Blade Demon, a card when I play Mega Blood I don't really worry about, but our opponent at least got it to go off. So, some more Salvation. This time we got our Heavenly Argus, and lowering it to 8 makes it playable next turn if we want it. But at this point it's going to be very hard for the Blood player to make up any ground against this unless they can just go for that immediate full board wipe. Trish isn't a bad option, considering Demon Song is a pretty decent removal card. Not perfect, but definitely decent. And now we can actually go for pretty much whatever we want here. Lowering the cost of Heavenly Argus, playing Black in Scripture, playing out whatever else we want. And sending a nice little 6 damage to face. Technolord, a little rough to deal with, but not a big issue. This ward is probably the worst of it, since I don't really have a practical way to remove it. Now it's really just a matter of what do I play from here. Assault Priest is a good play because it's a nice ward and a draw, trying to set ourselves up for next turn where something like Sister of Judgment could win us the game. Destructive Succubus though kind of ruins that plan a fair bit. I honestly should have just went face here for the 8 damage, but I did decide to not take any risks and instead decide to, of course, kill off the 6/6 while healing up. Which may have been the incorrect play, but in the end, I mean, I took the safer route than taking the risky one. Since I know wiping the board here is going to obviously put us in an advantage again. Another Trill. And another Demon Song. Honestly, not too surprised about that one. It's pretty predictable they went for that play. Now for a play that might be a little predictable myself. Father of Refinement with a hair will be actually a really nice play. Again, aiming for that potential wipe here. But this time, of course, sending Argus to face since there's no real threat on board and our health is high enough to deal with any kind of potential threat. And there is the mono play. This is what I was worried about though. The double mono play in the late game is actually always a huge risk. They couldn't quite go for lethal, they were going to be just short. But they did end up conceding, which piqued my interest, since I couldn't come up with a way to really clear this from my hand, but I'm guessing they suspected I could, so makes sense. Sometimes the mind games are the better option in those cases where they just think, hey, I've got 4 health, it's over, I can't survive, but it really would have purely come down to my next draw. If I had have got anything that would have helped me clear those, it would have been game and probably wouldn't have made any kind of comeback from them, but if I didn't, they had a chance, and honestly that's why I don't like conceding until I know for sure that I've got the loss. You never want to count out your draw phase. Saint has, again, another solid turn 1 play. I do like playing it on turn 1, it's just got that kind of nice edge to it. This time I decided to go for the Unicorn Knight instead of going for the Heraldic Sister. Since our turn 4 play is pretty much going to be Flawed Saint guaranteed, so I did need a solid turn 3 play. And Unicorn Spear is just that, a very solid turn 3 play. Sister Falconer, not really an issue yet. And we're going to get the free setup on the Flawed Saint. Which if I used the Heretic Sister next turn, I could actually very easily gain the Mecha Wing, which would be an insane amount of value for that turn. But I have got other options, of course, Assault Priest being one of them. And considering they went for Assault Priest, doesn't surprise me. So now I set up my own Assault Priest. It's a free draw, it is a ward, and with the Evo I can clear the 6/5. Get my own 6/6. And I've still got, of course, the Salvation, which is actually not a bad play on the Mecha Wing for a potential setup. Especially considering we've still got some half decent plays. Now I just really need a way around this ward, and coming up with that is definitely not the fun option. Even if I could have went for the potential Unicorn Spear instead of Robo Falcon. I really want to use the healing with hopefully something better, which is why I did avoid, of course, using it there. And another Assault Priest. Definitely not the card you want to see twice in a matchup. It can be a bit of a pain to deal with at times, and that was one of those times. All I can really do now is splash the board. Set up some potential to get our Argus out as soon as we can, and really hold off from there. So Genesis, another Genesis of Legend, mainly setting up, of course, for the back-to-back play, which makes sense. Unfortunately, I don't really have a way to deal with this in any kind of effective manner now, which is disappointing. So my best bet is to just continually play these Salvations until I have a chance. Ideally, I would have been able to get Heavenly Argus out. Unfortunately, that didn't end up being the case. So my next best bet is setting up some wards, holding down the fort, and really just securing the board. since there isn't many ways for them to get around this. There are a couple, but not many. So that at least bought me another turn to kind of work around the board. Unicorn Spear removes the smaller Bane. And setting up a ward isn't a bad option. Especially considering the situation. But it does mean we're not getting our Heavenly Ice out this time. Odin, that one's a little more interesting. Luckily we did set up the 3 damage max ward, so that made it very difficult for our opponent to kind of get around. I was mainly looking for a way to really take full advantage of these sisters. Unfortunately, didn't really come up with many options and ended up just going for a heal repair and trying to come up with a way around it. Unfortunately, just not that many options. All I could do is play some stuff to the board and hope that it sticks. And given the situation, that was probably the best play. So still have Father Refinement. That could work out very nicely for us. I could also went for Sister of Judgment, but I decided against that here. At least not for this play. Considering they've only got 1 drops and the best they could probably do is 6 damage, maybe a little more with an Odin play, really wasn't that concerned. And with Heavenly Aegis on board, cards like this are a lot less of a threat. And thanks to the Salvation, we can actually play Father Refinement and Sister of Judgment in the same turn, which will make for a very, very neat boost. Especially since I do plan on at least killing off the 4-3. Fortunately, the hit wasn't a good one, but at least Repair Mode made up for that. Setting us up with 18 damage on board, and a very, very difficult time getting rid of that. So without anything else, that is going to close the game. The one thing this deck doesn't have going for it is definitely the length of matches. I found that while the matches were either very close or pretty much a landslide, either way they were drawn out a fair bit, and getting to your win condition is usually very late game, which can be a huge risk. The only real bonus is that this has a fairly decent early game and has a very quick way to get cards out for cheap, which is nice, so no surprise there. Things like Robo Falcon do a very good job of helping you clean up where you need it, so definitely props to that. And if you guys did enjoy this video, do be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. You'll find this deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.